meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Village Council of Ortonville, June 23rd, 2025, 6:30 p.m. 6:37 p.m. If we could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Larry, if you don't mind.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Roll call, please.
Quisenberry.
Here.
Nivelt.
Here?
Brooks.
Here.
Green.
Yeah, here.
Hayden.
Here.
Randazzo. Balker.
Here.
Okay, public comments. We have an agenda
Well,
here.
first, I'll make a motion
To
to
approve.
approve the agenda for June 23rd, 2025.
Support. Okay, it contains 1 through 8 items. Motion to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The agenda is all set. Public comments, this is on things that are on our agenda. This is a public hearing agenda, and it's for, we open it, we have a public hearing, which is when all the people that live in the town and voters and taxpayers get a chance to express their viewpoints to us. And that's usually because something's coming up later in the meeting that has some direct involvement in that. So, and that does happen to be the case here. So I will open it up to anybody here who would like to speak to the village council. If so, just raise your hand and I'll call on you.
Would you like me to give a brief first?
Can we get with, can you give us a background of what your plans are, please?
We had public comments.
Okay.
We can take it out of order if you want to make a speech. Go ahead.
I just meant to give a brief outline of the project so that, and then
All right.
questions can
Well,
arise
it
out
didn't
of it,
show
if
up
that's
that way
okay.
on my thing, that's all.
Yeah.
Make a motion to change the order, because I'm okay with that, but
Okay.
if we want to formalize it, I can do a motion.
Did you make a motion, Larry?
He did.
No, okay, yeah.
No, I had made a motion to approve the agenda as
Yeah.
presented. So where do you want the,
We want to flip 5 and 6.
okay, so you want number 7 up before new business? Is that what you want?
7
Pick one.
before
We're just
5.
going to give him.
Okay.
Yeah, 74,
All right,
5.
so,
Public comments at 9.
Oh.
well,
We have a
okay.
different agenda than we do.
You got a different agenda.
Right, that's the regular
Oh, yeah, that's probably what it is, yeah.
There's two agendas tonight, so. Little
The first one is for the special meeting, which we will adjourn in a few minutes after everyone gets a chance to talk. And then we'll finish out this agenda, then we'll adjourn this meeting, and I'll call to order the next meeting, which is the regular village council meeting. So that's when we would be voting on things. Right now, they're just in the hopper.
So do we want
Wants
to
to speak.
formally change the agenda then?
We just did. All
We
those in
did.
favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
Okay, we
All
did?
those opposed? The number
There we
7
go.
now replaces, swaps out with 4.
All right.
Sorry about that confusion. If I can go ahead, just to kind of give a brief outline of what the thought is on the project, just so that some questions may kind of fit into that and make some more sense. So what the overall goal is that in 3 years, we will repave every paved surface. We will mill and resurface every paved road in the village. We understand the village roads have been an issue for some time. They've been deteriorating. We have not kept up with them or had the resources to keep up with them in a satisfactory way. And this year, the rating of those roads made it evident that we have to take action. Some of you may not know that the roads inside the village limits are not supported by the state. They're not supported by the county. The road commission does not touch them. We are solely responsible for our roads here in the village. So if you think about it, it's kind of like an HOA where everybody who lives in the HOA or lives in the neighborhood, if you need a new road, you pitch in and do it. If you need new roofs and it's a condo, you pitch in and do it. And so really it's the same kind of idea. And so we thought about what can we do to make this first affordable, because the MDOT spec pricing was somewhere around $17 million. The road commission spec pricing is somewhere over $7 million. And we are shooting for a target that is right around $1 million. And so because we were able to work out some price breaks, we were able to get local vendors to give us multiple quotes. We were able to do several things in the project that will save tremendous amounts of your dollars at the end of the day. As stewards of tax money, we kind of thought it made sense to find a path. And when we started poking in and looking into that path, we found out that we could do it for so much cheaper than we thought, that suddenly it became, we can really do this. And so how do we want to lay it out into this 3-year plan? So it's 4 phases is what we've set up, and each of those 4 phases are a different quadrant of town. Phase 1 starts Wednesday, and so we're using monies that we already have to get the project started and have a kickoff, and then we're talking about what were the ways to fund the next phases. So it will be all new asphalt, new painting throughout the village. We'll be adding somewhere between 24 and hopefully 30 new parking spaces, which are desperately needed. Ask any of the business owners, they'll tell you that. And so that's just a kind of a broad overview of what we are intending to do. And so, like I said, the first phase is going to start on Wednesday. We do have a representative from the paving company here to answer questions. Obviously, our DPW director is here as well. We've kind of all worked together and said, this is a big issue that's got to be addressed. And so we've kind of found a path and a way to work forward through it. So that being said, just to give you kind of a brief overview for those of you who may not know even what we're doing. So any comments would be welcome, but I'm not the one to ask for them, no.
Did you want to tell them how much it costs now per mile at all?
Yeah, so if you go by per mile, the RCOC quoting of a new road is almost $5 million per mile, which is pretty crazy. I met with the directors of the road commission 2 weeks ago, and that's what they told me. Resurfacing, which what we're doing, is somewhere around $2.3 million a mile, and we're doing it for obviously significantly less than that. So we have 3.6 miles, and we're roughly $1 million. I haven't done the math on what that is per mile, but it's significantly less. And part of that is thanks to the fact that we have a good relationship with a few local pavers who all gave us competitive quotes, and at the end there was one kind of clear one to go with. So
You explain what it will cost the homeowners.
yes, so that's where we get to for tonight's purpose. So we talk about the levy. For those of you who, whether you know or not, so the village is authorized at about 16.4 mils is the congressional rate that we're granted to say we can charge up to that without any questions. That's just between operating and roads. We have never charged more than 8 of those. There is an amendment called the Headley Amendment that I don't need to teach you too much about, but it rolls back the amount we're allowed. Right now, our current amount we're allowed to do without voter approval, just because the Congress feels that that's our operating expense amount, is 12.43, I believe it is. Forgive me on the thousandths of a decimal point, it might be something a little more. And so we would be increasing, what we're recommending, or what I'm recommending, is for 2 years to increase it from 8 to 10.8 mils, which would be about a 1/3 increase for the village taxes only. We're not talking about township taxes. This is just the village taxes, because that's what goes to our roads. For those 2 years with an optional 3rd year. So the word millage has a ton of negative connotation with it, right? Usually a millage comes in and it never goes away. The resolution that I have presented and the board's going to consider tonight is to expect to do it for 2 years with the option for the 3rd, depending on how exactly things work out, knowing that as we get into next summer season, everything's going to be more expensive, because everything's always more expensive. And so leaving that extra room for the things we can't predict. And so that would give us plenty of time and the funds to be able to complete the whole project. So that's what it would mean for an individual household, is about a 1/3 increase. Now, each year the assessor reassesses the value of each home. And so as home prices continue to climb, there might be a growth last year or this year over last year of your taxable value. So your actual taxes are figured on the taxable value, which is about 50% of your actual value of your home. So rough, quick math, if you own a $300,000 house, your taxable value is about $150,000, right? If you are paying 8 mils on that $150,000 value, I'm really going to make this number up, but let's say it's $600, right, for the year for your village tax. This increase would mean now you're going to go from $600 to maybe $810 for the 2 years. So if you're paying a mortgage and paying into escrow, that works out to $18 a month, $20 a month into your escrow. If I say it that way, not like I'm a salesman, but that's what we're realistically looking at. And in exchange for that, we get new pavement, not only new pavement now, but then we're on a 10 to 50-year plan of being intentional about keeping that pavement up, working, keeping it repaired. The distributions we get from the state do increase each year, but we only get about $150,000 to maintain all of our roads, which the state they're in, there's no way we would ever make headway. And so the idea being, now if we get this project completed in the next couple of years, then as we look at a 10 and 15-year window of the expectancy, the life expectancy of these roads, which haven't been paved in more than 30 years for most of them, the cost of maintaining them will go down significantly. The cost of salt will go down, the cost of plowing will go down, all during that time. And then that 150, as it grows, it might be 200,000 within a couple of years that we get from the state will be enough to continue to maintain them, keep them going, and then be setting enough money aside in a sinking fund so that when there are sections that need to be repaired in 8 years, 10 years, 15, whatever the number is, that money is there and it's coming from the state funding rather than having to do these special assessment kind of things where we wait till there's a crisis kind of a thing and have to react. So, because the only thing we know is the price will continue to go up, so.
And it is, we have to vote on it each year.
Correct, it is.
It's not an
Yep,
automatic forever.
Right, it's a 2-year term at first, although it is approved the next budget cycle when we go to approve our budget, it will be voted on again. So it's not necessarily automatic. This board could certainly consider not to levy it next year if something happened and miraculously the state sent us $2 million to fix our roads maybe. Well, we can all cross our
That'd be
fingers,
nice.
but while we're doing that, we're gonna make a plan that's realistic too, so.
Yeah, and yeah, that's a good point, because I know that the governor in her next phase at Fix the Roads is looking at trying to get more monies down to the local level. So we'll have to see how that plays out. If that does help out with hitting these costs, then we could, next year, we might say, hey, we don't need the 2.8, maybe we can drop it at 2 or whatever, because
absolutely.
with the supplemental, we're gonna be doing okay.
And that's part of this too, is that just because we found a way to fund it doesn't mean we're going to not continue to apply for grant funding and try to get what money we can. The reality is we have applied for a lot of grants in our history, and we have qualified or received very, very few of them. Just because of the size of our jurisdiction, whatever it is, we don't have the political sway, I guess, to impress the right people to get a lot of those grant dollars. And you have to know too, if it's a federal grant, that's where I was talking in the beginning, the price goes up so much that it's almost not worth going after the grant money.
Many of the
Because,
grants come with strings attached, which
A lot
make
of
the costs
strings.
go way up
Right.
if we take the grant.
like for instance, this section of Narren, the state's involved in that, and because they're involved with funding, we have to do it their way, which is costing us about $32 per square foot. We're gonna be doing our roads for $2.50 a square foot, maybe even less than that.
Just say
So,
less.
It's a whole lot less.
Right.
Yeah. And the one thing about funding too is we don't get the federal dollars. We apply for the state, but the problem with that is we sit at about 1,300 in population.
Yeah.
We never make the criteria for enough residents. Or if we do make the criteria, we are not severely poor. So we don't make the cutoff of being a community that needs this service. So we are in a catch-22 when it comes to those. And we are hoping on the SEMCOG pushing it. I know MML is, but to get money to villages like ours through the local levels, because we've been up there. I mean, I went in front of the House Committee, and we're fighting for it because somehow we just got lost in this big system. And hopefully that will change.
Yeah. And that has been a big factor on us being able to keep up with it, because you look back to 2000 when housing markets basically crashed, that reset all the taxable values in the village way down. And because of the Headley Amendment, the assessed value can shoot back up, but the taxable value is only allowed to increase at a certain percentage. So we're way under, our revenues are way down from that period, because, unless people move out of their homes, that taxable value that we get money from doesn't go up at the same rate as the assessed value does. And so we're kind of behind the ball because of that. And on top of that, the Michigan road programs that the governor's been doing the last several years has also driven up the cost of materials and contractors significantly because there's such a high demand from the state. All the prices have shot way up, and it's a lot harder for communities like us to compete at those rates, so.
Okay. We heard from the village manager, also from Larry. Does anybody here want to speak to the board? Sure. If you don't mind, could you come on up here?
Oh, and then state your name first and last.
My name's Julie Britton. I live at 310 Mill Street. My husband and I have been to a couple of the meetings last year. Two things, just based on, you guys have been mulling this over for a while, and so it's a lot to digest what you just said. My first question is, what about the businesses in Ortonville? Because there's a lot of empty buildings. What are they, who's paying? Are we paying for them?
The
So
owners of
what
the-
are the businesses paying for the roads?
Yeah, all those businesses are owned, so their taxes would get the same assessment.
Okay, so that's that. Our big concern has been the speeding, and it's gotten worse. And so you're gonna put in new roads, and it's just gonna get out of, worse than what it already is. And we have asked about the blinking, signs last year when we were here. It's out of control. Anyone that lives on Mill Street, they're hitting 40, 45, 50 every day. And so you're gonna put in new roads. And we have the group home across the street. We have a deaf person that lives there. I don't know why we don't have a deaf sign, like when there's a deaf person in the community or, impaired. Mikey tries to cross the street and we watch him, and it's really hard because they're coming so fast. So that's something that may not be related to this, but I wanted to bring up. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jill. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak to the board? Yes, sir, please.
I'm freezing. It's cold in here.
Jack Britton, 310 Mill Street. I think this is the third time, correct me, Larry, if I'm wrong, that we've brought up this issue of the speeding. And we were told this was going to happen. I know Bob personally tried to fix this.
With the
Nothing?
speed sign.
The sign.
Nothing's happened. Nothing's happened. You can find the money for the roads and spend a lot of that, and that's all we're asking. Fix the signs. You do have this group home across the street. A lot of these guys are medicated. And I mean, Larry, you live on Mill Street. You see it.
Well, I think it was not that long ago, we actually had somebody from the community injured or yeah,
Oh.
it was a bad.
I guess that's a priority for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that something you could maybe address in the village manager report, the status on those?
Excuse me, but I have a question for the board, everybody. Can you
Mary, you gotta come up.
Are
Are these-
Your first and last name, please.
Are these not working? She's just saying they can't hear.
Nobody can hear you guys.
So
Oh.
are our mics not working, guys?
No,
Yeah, come up.
I couldn't hear
At 349 Edwards Street, and nobody can hear you because you're not real tall. So you're talking into that counter. That's
We'll
all I
speak
want
louder.
to say.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, yeah.
Oh.
yes, that goes into the video feed, yeah.
So whatever you're saying, we're not hearing.
Okay,
Okay.
we'll speak up.
Thank you, Mary.
All right. Anybody else at the audience today would like to speak with us? Okay.
Yeah, don't be shy.
So publicly, I just want to say what everybody in this room and every,
Please state your name.
Glennis Hubbard,
Sorry.
Glennis Hubbard, Crescent Hill. Everybody knows this, everyone says it all the time, but I'm going to repeat it again. Bob, what you guys do with the roads, summer, winter, phenomenal. Thank you. You're awesome. So a couple of questions. Who is going to pay for the Oakwood portion of the roads that township uses, that the trucks use?
Oakwood, we're not allowed to touch. That's a county
State
road.
highway, that's a
And
state highway.
Granger.
It's not
And
inside of our
Granger.
village limits, so we can't do Oakwood or
All right.
Granger.
And how many bids did you guys receive, you said?
3.
3.
And they're all local?
They are, yep.
If in 2022, there was a Streets Committee meeting, and according to the website, that was the last Streets Committee meeting, if the report that came out at that time was pretty dismal about the roads, why wasn't there more of an aggression to do something about the roads in the last 2.5 years? Because it sounded like, by what you said, and maybe I didn't hear you correctly, but it sounded like this is just, oh, we have a surprise, we have to do something about this, where we all know the roads haven't been great, and in 2022, they had indications over naming roads specifically, Myron, et cetera. So where's that money? What's the line item for the last 5 years? And is that money being used towards this project now?
We get money from the state. It's called 151 money, and then the minor roads and major roads, 2 different funds we get, and we just put them into the account in the budget, and we have it there to spend. It's not a lot of money, so it won't even do a whole road. So we struggle every year at budget time, which is around May. That's why if the committee met in a different time, this board is talking about it all the time. So it doesn't ever go on the back burner.
It was not a surprise to us.
It would have been on the front burner.
I would think that.
It would be on the front burner all year long. So especially when it comes to budget time, and we have to find money for capital improvements. That's what this is. It's a one-time expense that we don't have to budget for every year, because once we do them all, we'll be good to go for 10 years or maybe more.
Yeah.
But because it's a one-time expense, and we think it makes far more sense rather than do nothing until next year and do the same thing next year and the same thing next year, while the roads continue to get worse and worse and worse. This money is not going to go down.
I'm not disputing that, Ken,
Okay.
but that wasn't my question. I asked where, if we knew in 2022, shoot, we knew it back when the sidewalks, and we were dealing with sidewalks. How many years ago was that? 15,
I can
20
maybe
years
help.
ago? And we were looking, we knew we had problems with sidewalks, and thanks to Mike and Bob, they were able to patch and not even patch. You fixed the sidewalks and made them look great. But we knew we had problems with the roads. So I know that we have to deal with something going forward. My question is, what happened to that line item, or the money that we all pay in taxes, or the money from the state and the county, wherever?
We spend
Where's
it on
that
the
money?
roads. Well, they get painted, they get tar blacktop, we eat up that expense, and it goes on roads. It doesn't go for things other than roads or sidewalks.
So
It
it's
just doesn't.
earmarked for
I could-
roads, and it's spent on roads.
If I
Yes,
could
every
help,
nickel.
address your question there. First of all, it's not like we haven't done anything on the roads. There was a significant drainage issue that cropped up that required to be addressed, and we had to use monies to repair that, and that ended up in repaving section of Mill Street from the downtown to Kearsley Creek, and also adding the drain, so we had proper drainage in Crossman Park. Now, that was a significant cost, and there were some overruns. That ate up a lot of the money. We also had the paving project that went from downtown up towards Crescent Hill subdivision. That was another project that we did in the past couple of years. So it's not that we're not doing roads. I can say this is we have been trying to plug all the roads into our capital improvement plan, but again, with limited money, there's only so much we can do. And when we do it like a short section at a time, it's much more expensive than doing it all at once.
Sure.
And I know that our previous village manager was looking at the same concept that Matt just presented of, let's see if we can get it done all in one big shot and figure out some way to finance it. Well, Matt, Ryan, our previous manager, before he could get that fully fleshed out as a proposal, he took another opportunity and passed the ball over to Matt. Once Matt was up to speed, obviously you can see now that he's up to speed and he's got his hands around this, he is attacking this and trying to find a solution forward. And I think that's what we all would like to see is, let's get a solution and then going forward, continue with a good capital improvement plan so we can keep these in sight and not lose sight of them and get behind like we have.
So then to take off from that, to repeat what you had said, at least what you talked very fast, so what I thought that you had said was that any monies going forward from the taxes that we're paying or the funds that come in through the state, that will continue to be earmarked for the roads in the event of, hopefully, it's a 2-year project, not a 3-year project. Okay? Okay.
So the
that's-
third, to just address exactly, like directly what you say there, the money that we have been able to set aside and build up is what I wrote in a check today to deposit to get this first phase going.
How much
So
was that? Can I ask how much that was?
The deposit check was $200,000.
Okay.
So that's this first phase, we're kicking off with that, and then it was, okay, once we get it going now, how do we keep the momentum going and get it done? That's why we went through all kinds of different creative ways to finance that, and it was very clear that this was the best option, even though it might not be the most favored. The other side is all the property taxes you've ever paid have never been earmarked for roads. Where there's 2 funds that we can assess millage on. One is for general operations and one is roads, and we have never assessed a road millage before. This would be the first time. And so when I was talking earlier saying that there's a 12.5 mil built in by Congress to say that's the operating cost of a city, village, township, or town, right? The 4.4 is just for the roads if you choose to do it. And so it's been elective, and this body has never assessed that before. So taxes have always been, I would say, artificially low because of that. Now, of course, the township taxes are,
Yeah.
well, no, and I understand that. But if you look at your tax breakdown, 85 to 90% of the taxes you pay are to the township, and they're 2 totally separate things. All those payments are separate, the rules on how they can be used are separate, and so we're only talking about the village portion of your taxes, which, as I stated before, could be as high as, 16.3 rolled back to 12.4 mils.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
But this body has always kept it at 8. Just because nobody wants taxes, but the reality is that's put us in a position a little bit where we got behind, the kind of the cut off your nose to spite your face thing, right? And that was never intentional, but that's kind of the result we got was, okay, this got us too far behind, let's kind of pitch in, get it fixed, get it caught up, and then moving forward, we can be more intentional with it. So I wanted to make sure I addressed those 2 points directly, that
Okay.
money that was earmarked for roads, which is the state funding, right? That's Act 51, it's MTF funds, those are funded by when you buy your registration, your plate tags,
Right.
gas tax, anything related to transportation goes into that fund.
Yep.
And then they divvy it all up, and we get the smallest piece of pie, I can tell you, because I see what every other community gets.
$150 a year on that?
Yeah, it's right around, we got about $149,750 this year. It's going to increase by 4 to 5% each year. And so there'll be a point when we cross $200,000, but by the time we get there, it'll be $7 million a mile for roads. So it's almost like you can't ever keep up. And so that's where the reset's needed, because if we're starting with if we have quality roads in place, then Bob and his guys who do such a wonder of being able to stretch and make things work can do that. Right now, we're asking them to really perform miracles.
Yeah.
He can do it.
That's
I don't know what the problem is.
Yeah,
My
that's
next
one
question
thing
is,
is-
what
is-
about Evergreen Ridge and Linda K. Lane? They're not paved.
Correct.
Are they being assessed as well?
Every village resident is being assessed, yes, under the theory of the rising tide lifts all ships, that everybody's house values should increase because of it. That's the theory from where the authorization comes from in the statute, is if it's a specific repair, like say we're doing one piece of road, then you assess it to the people who live on it and you divide it by the feet of frontage they have. But we're talking about a wholesale project that impacts everybody positively, even though there are 22, I think, parcels that are.
So have you notified Linda K. Lane and Evergreen Ridge that they are paying for this and they're not getting anything other than the use of the village streets?
I have not, because they're not paying for it unless the council approves it, so we're not in the place to do that yet.
Granger.
Okay, I think,
Yeah, Granger and Oakwood are in the
Oakwood
same
also
boat.
are in the same position. We're going to pay for it, but we, of course, we
Granger,
use the
right.
roads, but we don't live right downtown.
okay, thank you.
Okay.
Oh, I did have one more question. What about the people who are on fixed incomes, the elderly, the retired? Well, are they going to be assessed the same thing, just as everyone else? Is there a
As far
provision
as I
for the
know,
people
under-
that can't afford this?
Yeah, under taxation authority, it's, the only way you can assess is if you don't discriminate, and you would do it the same for everybody, so.
Wow. So there's no help for the people who,
There may be, we would be more than welcome to have some folks throw into a fund for their neighbors who might not be able to afford it. That'd be a
Wow.
great idea.
that's going to hurt.
We can also investigate with county whether they have any programs that could help. You know,
Thank
that's
you.
something
Not
we'll
there
have to
yet.
look into.
Okay, thanks, Gwyneth. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
My name's Kurt Horsley. I'm at 112 Ball Street. I just need a clarification. I picked up on an article on the percentage of payment involved here, you know, like for me. The article read $280 per 100,000 value.
Yeah, so what it is, yes, there's a formula to figure out what a millage increase does. It's 2.8 mils means $1 for every $1,000 in value. So, yeah, the way it works out to make it easier is it's almost exactly 1/3 of whatever you paid last year. Well, okay, it's 1/3 of what your general fund tax is will be in addition, will be a road tax. So, like I said before, if you were paying $600 to the village, it would be $800 for these 2 years. If you're paying $900, it would be $1,200, right? It's 1/3 increase. Plus, there's an increase in there because the assessed value went up. But
I guess, let me redirect the question. I have neighbors that have about 1/3 of the property tax that I do.
okay.
Am I paying the same as them, or am I paying 3 times what they're paying?
Well, you're paying based on what your taxable value is. I can't
You're paying
equalize it
more-
any
you're
other
paying
way.
more than they are.
You're going to, yeah.
Yep.
You know, that's.
But they
that's where it
probably have
comes
lived there
down.
longer, and they fall under the Headley Amendment, which
Yep.
means their property taxes can't go up.
Until
Only
they-
a percentage
I
a year.
understand.
they move.
I fall into that group of new owners. I've been here 10 years, but
That's
what
I
that's
got
what
hit
bites you.
really hard 2 years after I moved in, and then I put up a garage 2 years ago, and I got hit really hard again. So you guys are telling me you're gonna hit me again?
Just for
Whatever
a
the-
short
whatever the-
period.
Whatever the tax appraiser comes up with. They've got the formula, they're the ones who every year come out and assess your taxes. It's somebody at the county level, it isn't even a township person. So the county equalization sends somebody out, and they pretty much rubber stamp everything as being the same, unless in fact you did something, or you pulled a permit, or if you made an improvement, that assessor may raise your rate up. And if he does, we only see it on our copy of the tax bill.
So my village taxes are X. You're telling me it's gonna go up, because mine are different from everybody else's already?
X plus
So
1/3.
it- Okay, plus 1/3.
Roughly, yeah.
Okay, for 2 years.
For 2
For
years.
2 years, and then there's a
I can live
potential
with that. I
third
just
year
wanna clarify.
if they approved it.
But right now, we're just approving 1 year.
Okay.
I'd be more than happy to look at your individual parcel and tell you what your numbers would be if you want to hang out afterward or pop in the office in the morning. I'm more than happy to walk through that with you and show you what that breakdown would be. And that goes for anybody who wants to know.
It's only on your village, not on your township.
Understood.
Right.
Yeah, because some people are thinking it's on the whole, you know, it's not, but it's still not fun.
I'll take you up on that.
Yeah, for sure.
After the meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I ask a question then? So if the assessment goes up next year, will our taxes then go up with it on the millage?
Yeah, anytime the assessment goes
So
up, because
we're not locked in for 2 years, is what I'm trying to say.
you're locked into the rate, but that doesn't mean, I mean, values can go up or down. So the rate is based on whatever that taxable value is, which is set, as President Quisenberry said, it's set outside of our office. They tell us this is the value. So I can tell you right now, this year, our taxable value of properties in the village is $53,490,000, something like that. And so by the time we put point and 0.0000 after it in our number, that's how we figure out what we're gonna have. So, you know, our general fund budget from taxes is about $423,000 next year, if under the budget that I wrote. So just to give you an idea of what the numbers we're talking about, you know, that doesn't go that far as the services that get provided. Certainly not enough to be saving up money for major projects, so.
And keep in mind that your assessed value may jump significantly, but your taxable value is locked to be no more than the rate of inflation, or what is it, 5% by the Headley Amendment. So even if your assessed value jumps significantly, your taxable value only goes up incrementally, unless you make, sell your house or make a major improvement or something like that. That's what can affect that and bring it up to the taxable value, or the assessed value.
Okay, that takes us past couple,
No,
oh, there's another hand, I'm sorry.
Thank you for recognizing me, Village Council. I appreciate it, Bob. Thanks for all your hard work and you and your team do for the village. So,
I need your first and last name.
my name is Al Hubbard. I live at 70 Crescent Hill Drive. I've been a resident of Ortonville for 39 years, both Mill Street and Crescent Hill. My question is, I have a couple of questions. Number one, on the resurfacing, right? So we're going to tear up, we're going to clarify all the roads and put them back down as pavement, right? What's the longevity of that versus properly paving the street? And, you know, what the reason I'm asking this, I've seen a lot of resurfaced streets. They don't last long. If they're not done correctly, they don't last long, and I don't want to go through this again in 3 years. You know, we're just getting out of a millage, and now we're going to go into another one because the streets are crap again.
Yeah,
right?
so there's two parts to that answer. The first is you want to talk about what's the quality of mix that's being put down, and we're actually getting the top tier RCOC blend mix, which is more than we're asking for. It's more than most lightly traveled roads are getting, which means it's a much higher product.
Is that right, Bob?
It's been
Okay.
Yeah,
been testing out upwards of 96-97% density, if my understanding's right,
Okay.
which is a very high quality asphalt that's going to be going down. The other thing is, as we mill, if we find spots where the sub or the base needs to be addressed, it will be addressed. So when you say, you know, if it was done right, you know, we just want to be careful because it's you know, we will be addressing those issues, and we're not going down, you know, down to dirt and rebuilding new structures everywhere because that would be overkill upon overkill. What really the issue is, like I said, it's been 30 plus years since we paved these roads, and they're designed to make it 12 to 15, and they're just way beyond their use, and you know they show it for sure. And so there's no guarantees, but my expectation, as I said before, when we do long range planning, is going to be that 10 to 15 year window is what we would be looking at to be doing sinking funds to address issues that come up. So the road money is not just the lanes, right? It's parking spots that are adjacent, it's sidewalks, it's curbing, all of that stuff is included with road projects. And so all of that stuff we have to continue to be intentional about managing, and in that 10 to 15 year cycle, we'll be set up now to continue doing that as best we can. Can I say there'll never be a need to do it again? No, there's no way I can say that because.
But you did say 10 to 15 years, right? Is that your expectation?
That's the expectation,
That
yes.
is the
My
expectation.
frank expectation is the higher end because we're getting a higher quality blend and it's being put in well, so.
And you're in certain areas, you're going heavier, are you not?
Correct. There are areas where we're actually doing 4 inches of blacktop instead of 2 because they're heavier. So over there on Donald Keith, the southern part of Davis, where all those fuel trucks are coming in and out all day, all of South Church Street, where the fuel trucks and the fire trucks are out and moving, those heavier, even though it.
Oh, we got garbage trucks too. We got plenty of
Yes,
garbage trucks in
too, you're
town.
right. And it'd be great to go 4 inches everywhere, but that's
But
just
we
not
can't.
realistic. I mean,
Yeah.
you're talking about doubling the price if you do it 4 inches everywhere.
Right.
But those areas where we do expect heavy traffic, we do, you know, we make North Church Street is no trucks, Cedar Street's no trucks. We have those marked, so they should, you know, those should only be on South and Mill and Church, which will be the roads that have that deeper depth to them. I forget there was a second part, but if that's. There's an expert here who can answer your question in more detail if that was not enough detail for you. The gentleman who owns the paving company is here to give you the right answer, but
Bob shook his head, I'm good with that.
Yeah, right.
Okay?
No pressure.
Right,
So I would also like to mention, you know, everybody is commending Bob and his fantastic job trying to keep these roads in repair that are. you know,
Unbelievable.
It's very challenging for him. He's doing a great job.
Absolutely.
And I just want to say that the average life expectancy of a road is like the 10 to 15 years if you don't do any maintenance. But if you do proper maintenance, you can extend that tenure to 20 years or further. As long as you get proper maintenance done, crack sealing and all that stuff in a timely manner, you could greatly extend the life of those roads. And I know Bob knows how to do all that, and will make sure he stays on top of
You
that.
can
to
never
extend it.
retire, never retire. If you are doing this,
Retire, okay?
yeah.
25 more years.
Don't grow old and don't retire.
All right, to follow up on this question is, what are we going to do if we all are going to do this? I mean, it sounds like we are. What are we going to do to start preparing for the next 15 years so that we don't get hit with a millage? You know, I've managed corporate budgets, $10 million budgets. I mean, you pick and choose on what's important. I think the infrastructure of this village is very important, right? That has to do with roads, right? And that's what's going to drive business and traffic and everything into town. So my question is, how are we going as a village to work on the next 10 to 15 years on saving or putting money aside, along with, hey, let's be real, many of the villages and townships throughout the state are merging
You already went over
to
that.
consolidate services. So is that something that we could think about for the future as residents and taxpayers, that we can get a better bang for our buck that we put towards the taxes we pay?
Certainly.
That's my concern. And then the last thing is, Bob did a great job on Crescent Hill, but all the traffic comes out at the end, and that's where all the bumps, there's still some holes there. All right, that's all I got. If you, okay, good. No, but I really want to learn what are we going to do for the next 10 to 15 years to prepare for this? Because these are, and Larry, you brought up, it's not going down. Prices keep going up.
No, they're not.
And we got to prepare for the future, not what we're only going to do today, but, you know, just so we don't get hit ahead.
Yeah,
I
and he
think we-
did address some of that. I mean, he went over that when he was
Yeah,
first.
but, yeah, and
Yeah.
if Bob stays on for 25 years, we don't have to worry about it for another 25 years. But if it's a 15-year life cycle, right, if that's, to your
But that's
point.
what I mean.
that's
He did
reasonably
address
conservative.
That's
that.
reasonable,
Yeah.
right. So, okay, then how do we say from this day forward, we're going to probably take this increase, then what are we going to do now for the next 15 years? Are we, going to have that down the
And
road?
that's where I talked about that. Intentionality is going to be so important because we have our, our CIP plan, we have our master plans. All these are 5 and 10-year plans
Yep.
that we can give teeth to by now. Starting tonight, I hope we will be doing a 3-year budget instead of a 1-year budget. And in that 3-year, it's okay. Here's the kind of the 30, 60, 90-day view, right? The 90-day would be 15 years, right? The 60-day is, okay, we're going to be doing at least 3 years at a time. We know we're committing these funds to these things. And some of that should be sinking funds of saving for the next go-round, and whatever that looks like. I haven't considered about it long-term. I know that what my goal was here was to take away all there's not enough resources, we can't get it done, and say, okay, but what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? And the more I pushed on that door, the more we found out that, oh, wait, maybe we can really do all of this. This would really be something. And so I have the intention of the long-range planning, but I have not fleshed that out as much.
Well, and Melanie brought up a point, as far as when you look down the road, right, you're looking ahead, the cost, I mean,
Yeah.
we got to look at how we're managing our costs. I mean,
If I could get you guys to all give up cars and go back to horse and buggies with the charm of Ortonville, we could make the roads really cheap again.
gravel. No, but I worry about our future. I worry about the future of the village, and I think we really got to, I mean, services, are we duplicating? I mean, there's just things we can do. You brought up, Melanie, the size. We're in between in a lot of ways, right? We're too small, but we make too much money, or we have our tax base. How do we equalize that? I think that's a challenge for this council, is how do we get the maximum bang? Is it merging with the township? I don't know. Is it something else that we can do different that we can better qualify for better funding, right? And I think we're all owed that as residents on our tax dollars, how we can maximum value, and most importantly, how's that going to look in the future? And I think that's all I have. Thank you
No,
very much.
that's true. Or is it cityhood?
Pardon me?
Or is it cityhood?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What-
And,
what-
I mean, we
what
see
is
what's
it?
happening with the village of Holly right now,
Yeah, I mean,
and we don't want that.
we don't want
happening
that,
here.
but if we're in that in-between, too big, too small, and we're not just right, like the Three Bears, I guess, or whatever, but we got to find out where our sweet spot is, and let's drive to that to get it the maximum value for us as residents. Thank you for recognizing me.
Thank you.
Okay, takes us to item 6, unfinished. There's still more people.
Yeah. and this
Ashley, come on up.
has to go- I have to continue it until we're done. There's no time limit.
Ashley Mold, James Street, you know where I live. I have one weird question for the roads wise, because like, will the new road match up to everyone's driveways in a sense? Because like currently, right, mine has like a gap and then there's dirt, and so which plowing wise, they
Yeah.
miss a big chunk because if they follow the road perfect, I miss a big chunk kind of thing. And so for road wise, will it actually go over and cut over like it follows the road, or will they just follow the natural line of the road, or will I have a gap?
Yeah, so what you're asking, that's called the approach, right?
Yeah.
So there's the area between your private driveway and the road is
Yeah.
that approach where the two blend into each other.
Yeah.
I think, and I don't want to speak wrongly, but luckily I can be immediately corrected, that we are planning on doing approaches and blending them.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
No,
Right.
It's very simple. If I see a 6-inch gap,
Okay.
I'll just fill the gap.
Okay.
And we'll keep going forward. We'll cut it back to the road.
Okay. I have that weird dirt and gap,
Mhm.
but it follows the road still, so the road still meets where it does, but plowing wise, you guys just follow the road,
Right.
which is fine. I can shovel, it's good. But, and then also to follow Julie and Jack for speed wise, because Ball Street, James Street is hell for speeders. And so if we end up getting nice, beautiful roads, you're basically taking out our speed bumps. And it's gonna be kind of scary, especially with kids riding their bikes and then the baseball games and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And then there's kids fishing on the little bridge right there, and that's already narrow as it is. If you get one good car going through there, it's gonna be sketchy, and it's already sketchy as it is. And even Alex knows, we watch other people and do they're going fast. So it gets a little dicey sometimes, and I don't know if extra stop signs would help in a way, which that would make horrible.
Well, it's a good thing
But-
Sergeant Glover's here,
As I say, people
because
already
he's
run the
hearing
stop
all of
signs,
this
so I don't know if
firsthand.
that's gonna help either, but,
Lieutenant, not sergeant.
It doesn't make a difference whether the roads are rough or if they're smooth.
yeah.
It makes absolutely no difference.
Some kids consider that a challenge if it's rough.
I was gonna say, yeah.
One of the things we've talked about is traffic calming, which is speed
I say
humps or
speed
bumps.
speed humps would
Certainly
be,
around
I've
the
never
parks
thought in a
that-
million years I would actually want that, but.
But those are
That's with
certainly things
with plowing and speed bumps,
Right,
though. Every
that
time
would
we
be-
brought up speed bumps, all we heard
Sorry,
about
Bob.
was, well, the plow.
Right.
So,
And they make removable ones. That's something we can be investigating, though. I
Right.
just,
Speed bumps might as well be a stop sign.
I don't have an answer for you, but
There's no
I'm
way
sorry?
to go over them at 25 miles an hour.
mhm.
Stop to zero, go over it, and then go get back up.
It almost becomes one surface, so you're way less likely to rip them. Yeah, but even so, I also think about emergency vehicles that need to be in and out quickly and stuff. I don't want to put speed bumps in their way.
Speed bumps. Also, punish the ones that are obeying the law.
Pretty much.
They really punish the speeders too, I promise.
Well, it does, but.
And that's fine with me.
It's unbearable.
Yeah.
I will share that one of the thoughts I had for traffic calming, because this has been in our master plan, and, how do we do traffic calming? And I think one of the thoughts I had was if we could strategically put some. Okay, one of the thoughts I had for traffic calming is if we could put crosswalks with the signs like they have in downtown Oxford, for example, just something that gives a visual to help drivers see that and will help make them unconsciously slow down. It'll work for some drivers, not all, but it should work for some of them that don't realize how fast they're going.
The roads that don't have sidewalks.
Well, you mentioned specifically James and Ball, that could be an issue. I know James and Mill is bad like that. Can't do it everywhere, obviously, but I don't know what we can do for the local streets that aren't the main streets in and out of
Oh,
town. So
that's another conversation.
that's another conversation, yeah.
I'll address the speed. I mean, the question comes up all the time.
Where you live, please.
It is an issue, but, I sat, the other day, the township supervisor asked us to sit on Mill Street.
catching them coming down the hill. I sat there for almost 3.5 hours, and everybody seems to have a magic radar detector. And, you know, that they're doing 50 miles an hour, and they're not. I mean, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, because it does. But I sat there for almost 3.5 hours, and I never got anybody over 35. We pound the streets in the village, but you got to remember, we have 2 cars for the entire township on most days for the township. And for me to set a car and you know, we might sit there 20, 25 minutes, and then a call comes up and we have to leave. I did mention to prior village managers, there are smart carts out there that you can purchase. A lot of the villages have them. They can be moved to different locations. I can tell you that at my recommendation of quite a few years ago was to put one on Church Street and one on Mill Street. It was a flashing sign. Well, most people don't realize that most of those don't. A lot of people thought that they actually were taking a picture of your license plate, and it was alerting us that was not the case. But it did slow people down, just the visual, and those were basic signs. But you can purchase smart cards for that and move them around the village at will. And it is a deterrent, no question. Good.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else for comments? Yes, sir.
Dennis Hoffman. I've lived on 274 North Church Street, been there since 1970. And with the last time they did the sidewalks, they either lowered them or the street was a little higher, but every time it rains very much, I get a pond in front of my driveway on the sidewalk. Now when they go, if they raise Church Street 4 inches this time when they go through, is that gonna mean I'm gonna have a bigger lake in my sidewalk?
Ideally, if it's raised at all, it'd be somewhere between 1/4 and 1/2 inch maybe. When I talked about 4 inches of surface, that's after milling it down, and it won't be a 4-inch surface in front of your house. It'll be down by the firehouse. So it would be 2 inches on yours, but they would mill it down 1.5 inches or 2 inches and then replace it with 2 inches. So there may be a very slight increase, but it would be very slight. But
Yeah, but ever since they've done the sidewalks, this has been, every time it rains very much, it just,
Sounds like
there's a
some
lake
other
there.
kind of drainage issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, where the sidewalk just, maybe it needs a drain tile in it, running to the nearest.
I don't, I know when I had my driveway was asphalted, they put a lip on the one end of each end to keep it out of the driveway. But it's still, people walking down the sidewalks, gotta go out into the street or in through my yard and out the driveway just to miss the mud puddle, except for the little kids, they love it.
Yeah, I bet they do.
Parents don't, but.
Actually, Matt, that raised a question in my mind. As they,
where my driveway is.
as they work on these phases, are they also going to be checking to make sure that if there's any drainage improvements needed, that those will be addressed too?
I'm gonna bring my granddaughter down next time to visit after rain. Because we're always looking for a good puddle.
Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you. Thank you, Dennis.
Okay,
Thank you.
anyone else?
Thank you for a
We actually
regular
got to move on
agenda.
to another meeting in this same building, 5 minutes after we complete this one. I just want to give one more last call to anyone who wants to speak about the road issue or the taxes issue. Okay, that takes care of public comments, unfinished business. We have none. New business is a levy resolution that is in our packet. It starts off with a map, I think, highlighting the.
What's that, resolution? I thought it was on the regular.
It was right behind all
Oh, okay.
this paperwork of the maps.
This was given some piecemeal.
Ortonville Village budget, here it is. Okay, in your packet is a one-page Ortonville Village budget for year ending June 30th, 2026. That would be 1 year from next week. We have those 3 columns that the village manager mentioned.
Can you speak up, please?
Okay. This budget we're looking at has 3 columns. It's amended budget, the actual budget, and the requested amount coming up for 2026. We have it, and it looks like this. If anybody's interested in it, you can stop by the village office, or you can bring it up on online, and you can actually see what every single line item is.
Yeah.
But
This
our
is
older
a
budgets
public
used to have
hearing.
300-400 different
We actually
line
should
items that
address
we
the
could
levy
have
resolution in our
put
regular
something
meeting.
into, and that just didn't seem to be working well at all. We
Budget is
combined
not
it
part of
down.
this agenda, so I'm not sure why we're talking about budget.
Okay, you
Ken,
can,
is the budget part of the public hearing?
Yes. This-
Okay,
the
'cause it wasn't-
resolution is.
Resolution.
You're
is-
breaking-
This piece.
Only the resolution.
You're breaking it out in two parts. The only part you would be voting on right now would be the levy piece, and then that informs the budget at the next meeting, and the vote on that.
Right.
Because there's elements to it, right? So right now, it would be the levy with the dollars in it that I put in as expected amount, and you would be approving that. Or
That's
not approving it.
down here. It is. Down, it's talking about the resolve. Midway.
Okay, I have two different.
There are two different, I apologize.
This is the
that's all zero.
resolution.
If you're looking for the resolution, here's how I would word it if I could request, if someone needs to make a motion, that this board resolve that for the tax year, fiscal year 2026, tax for 25, they would impose a statutorily warranted 2.8 mils for the road fund specifically. This would be funds exclusively usable for roads.
So moved.
No, he's not a member. See, and that's what I thought we were doing at a regular meeting, but
Support.
Okay, moved and supported. We did have a lot of people here today to discuss this with us. It was great to have them here. But now we do get to vote on this unless anyone has more questions. I think all of us stopped in and saw the manager sometime on our own time over the last couple of weeks just to get a good understanding of this. So even though we may not have covered everything at a workshop, we at least all had a chance to garner more information from Matt if we chose to.
I'd like to make a comment if I could. My daughter lives in Fenton, in the older section on State Road, and her street was nasty. Looked like Ball Street over here. And I always felt like we were getting out of the, Fenton's such a cool little area. And I kept thinking, man, she lives in, once it starts to get, that's where she lives. Her road got fixed within the last few years. I drove down it today. They even put new street signs up. And it is amazing to me now when I drive by her house, I think, oh, this is a nice little area. So I do think that I know this is a cost to everyone, and I've been here a long time, so unfortunately, I'm not gonna get hit, or unfortunately for you, you're gonna get hit harder than me. But I really do think that this will increase our property values. Just looking at her neighborhood and how much nicer it looked, just that little piece of street, because the street was repaired.
Thank you for mentioning Ball Street.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a roll call vote?
Nyvel,
yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Falker,
Yes.
Rosenberg.
Yes. Okay, that,
Make a
Motion
motion
to
to
adjourn.
adjourn the public hearing.
support. Moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, this meeting is adjourned at 7:35. We'll take a 5-minute. If we could rise, Alex, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Roll call, please.
Nyvel,
Here.
Brooks,
Here.
Green.
Here.
Hayden,
Here.
Randazzo, Westmoreland, Falker,
Here.
Rosenberg.
Here.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of, under number 8, approval of disbursements, B, amended budget for 2025.
Support?
Okay, there's been an item added, number B, to disbursements. Moved and supported. Does anybody have any questions about that? That has to do with this sheet that Matt just passed out to everybody. We're required to approve it because he has to send it to the auditor tonight. So it was a little scrambling on his part to put this together, but what we're doing is he has to make sure that all of the accounts balanced when the year's over. So money's gonna come out of one account and go into another so that everything zeros at the end. So that's what that document is going to do, and that's been added. And those in favor of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Presentation, we got the DDA here today. Looks like I see some DDA folks here.
Take it away.
Thank you for the opportunity to present before the Village Council. Courtney McLaren, who is the DDA president, is here today, as well as Tim Colbeck. Tim Colbeck has been our liaison to Main Street, Oakland County. 6 years. 7 years. The whole time?
Well, no, you know, I inherited from Joe Frost.
There we go. 6-ish, 7 years. But before I bring Tim up for the presentation, I do want to recognize that in 2025 we are celebrating 25 years of Main Street, Oakland County, or Main Street, Oakland County being in existence. And I think there has been one time throughout that 25 years where there was another countywide coordinating program for Main Street, but there isn't any longer. Is that correct? Or one was toying with the idea or something like that?
Another one's ever been created. There's several citywide.
Yeah, okay. So the only countywide coordinating program in the country. In the state of Michigan, we're privileged to have 2 coordinating programs. The state program, which coordinates all Main Street programs outside of Oakland County, and then Main Street, Oakland County. So Tim, if you could.
And thank you for allowing us to come out tonight. Every year, as part of the process, we have different strata, so to speak, of communities. And Ortonville, the Ortonville DDA is at our highest level, which we call select. And so as part of that, to maintain their select level, we do an accreditation review. There's a checklist of items that we need to see that they're doing and, progressing, that they're putting all of the good practices in place per the Main Street model. Main Street has 4 kind of legs to the stool, which is design, organization, promotion, and economic vitality. And each one of those things should lead to a thriving and vibrant downtown. Every year I come out to Ortonville to do the evaluation, usually like in January, so we did it in January this year. And every year, Ortonville knocks it out of the box. The evaluation is great, and why it's great is because the staff and the board are so well organized. The volunteers come out and really show us how much they care about the organization. And that's the big strength. That's what we see why there's success here. And, it may be slow, but it's steady. And every year there's another thing that, that ticks off that says we've accomplished this, we're moving forward. Again, to me, that is exemplary of the organization itself, of the volunteers and the paid staff, and of course the village for its partnership. So with all of that being said, and don't need to elaborate too much, I do have a certificate, and this comes from Main Street America, which is our coordinating agency. They're the overall over all the others, and this is to recognize that for 2025, the Ortonville Downtown Development Authority is an accredited Main Street community for meeting all standards of performance in 2024. So.
All right.
Yes.
Can we get a photo?
Sure.
This thing I wore, clean
Do
shirt.
we want to go
Maybe just
down
stand
or
or
stand
stand?
here? We'll stand behind them.
Sound like we like each other.
Yep.
Here we go. You guys can come over here. There you go. Come on over. Yeah. You guys in it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's because of Courtney.
I'm really not that tall.
Go to the left. Okay, I'm gonna snuggle up.
Okay, I'm gonna have to.
Thank you. Congratulations, guys. You guys rock. RTDA rocks. Are you guys gonna say some words or speech or?
No.
Nothing, that's it?
I had to come and smile for the camera.
Okay.
No, just thank you, Village Council, for your support throughout the year. Thank you to all those who showed up to our accreditation this year. As Tim said, they come every January. I think one year we did February.
Yeah.
It's usually every January, and the public really shows up for us, which is a big deal, not just for our accreditation, but to the board itself, because it shows us that what we're doing means something to the people of Ortonville. So just thank you to everybody, and we look forward to a very successful 2025.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Okay, that takes care of number 5, the DDA presentation. Moves us on to approval of council minutes. We have a budget workshop from May 27th and a village council public hearing from May 27th. We should do each of those separately.
Make a motion to approve the Ortonville Village Council Budget Workshop of May 27th, 2025.
Support?
Okay, moved and supported to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the next one, please.
Is this for the public hearing 27th? Right? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I make a motion to approve the Ortonville Village Council public hearing for May 27, 2025.
Support.
Okay, everybody got a chance to review those minutes? Are there any questions on those? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, those are now part of the village official record. We do accept other items that come into the office. On a normal course of business, so we get correspondence from the county and other government agencies. We also get them from private individuals. And these are things that we just accept in the course of business. We don't have to vote on approving them because we didn't have anything to do with the preparation of them. Therefore, we're just looking at somebody else's work and we're approving it so that we can add it to the village library. If somebody ever needs to come in and look something up that we didn't approve, we'll still have it. That includes the Planning Commission of May 5th, the Planning Commission of another one of May 5th, I think there probably was only
Yes,
supposed to be.
public hearing and a regular minutes,
Okay.
yep.
All right. DDA of May 19th, 2025, a financial report of May 2025, and a revenue and expenditure report of May 2025. So those are all in here for us to review and accept. At this time, I will accept all of those. Next up is approval of disbursements. A is payable, the accounts payable ending May 31st.
I make a motion to approve our disbursements in the amount of $80,194.09 for the period ending May 31st, 2025.
Support?
Okay, moved and supported. Any more questions on the bills? If not, roll call, please.
Rose.
Yes.
Green.
Yes.
Hayden.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Nivell.
Yes.
Quisenberry.
Yes. Okay, that takes care of the disbursements. We added this item, which was item B. This is what the village manager, Matt, just passed out to us. He had a phone call, a conversation today with the village auditor, and he reminded our manager that he needed to complete this before the end of the year. So it's just one of those things that, part of the learning curve, I guess.
It's amending the budget to be reflective of so when this body approves expenditures each month, there were areas where we spent more than we budgeted for, and if that ever happens, then we have to come back and reapprove that we intended to allocate those funds from the line that we overspent into another
I thought
one
we
where
kind
we
of did that
underspent.
once a year towards the end of the budget year.
Yeah, we'll do it again after the first couple months of the new year too, as we get actual numbers in, because some of them are projections for what we'll be getting from different
Okay.
revenue sources, so. They're not very significant changes. It's just reallocating some of the dollars that weren't spent, which some of them went to this first phase of the road project, and then areas where we overspent. Actually, none of the over expenditures were very much, small percentages, but we still have to kind of look at them all together and say, this is the result of the disbursements that you approved throughout the year, was they went over what you had approved for a specific department, and so
Okay.
we have to approve that we did do that intentionally.
So we're gonna approve this so he can file it tonight, and
And this is the motion you want read? No.
That's a different part.
No? Okay. Nope.
we'll just read this off.
Somebody else go ahead then.
Okay, just read
I
that
make a
off.
motion that we approve the Village of Ortonville 2025 amended budget. In the amount-
This is the draft? or-
In the amount of the 163,000, is that what
No.
you're saying?
I would just say as presented or something.
As
Yeah,
presented.
Yeah,
Right.
that's, yep.
On this form. Okay, is there
support
support
that,
for that?
yeah.
Okay. Moved and supported. Does anybody else have more questions on the budget? Or on this budget amendment for the sheet that manager just passed out to us? No further questions. Roll
This
call,
is not a
please.
draft. Yeah,
Not anymore, because you just approved it.
no, okay, yeah. All right.
Hayden,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Nivell,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Quisenberry.
Yes. Okay,
And no, it's not a draft.
that takes care of item B. That moves us down to public comments. We have an agenda here today, and if anybody's here in the public wants to speak to the board, now would be a time to do so. Yes, sir.
Evening.
Please state your first and last name.
Ian Scribner, on behalf of the Michigan Blackhawks, was here a couple months ago. We had submitted again another application for a downtown tournament. Up to this point, we haven't received any communication back yet, so just trying to see where we stand with this and how we move forward.
Well, I noticed that you weren't on the agenda for tonight.
I noticed too.
Yeah, did you request to be on it?
I did not.
Okay. I mean, I don't know how else we would know to put you on.
Okay.
When was the new application filled out?
A month and a half ago and submitted.
A new one?
Yes.
Not, okay, because I know
Yeah, we
that
submitted it back in May.
you were requested.
Per the last
Right.
meeting, I handed one in, like requested, and we also emailed one to the village as well.
So Amber,
So
Matt?
we submitted two this time, per the request of Mr. Hayden last time.
Clerk, because I've got nothing from you.
I
My-
thought we did get something new
Yes.
at last
We
month's
did.
meeting that we
Yeah,
looked at.
Yeah, that, the only thing we.
But we asked for changes in
Yeah.
that.
Did you submit something since our last council meeting?
Yes, we submitted
Yes.
some of the parking requests, yeah.
We haven't, so what's going on?
We emailed that to the manager.
There was nothing to my email, and I'm.
The village manager could probably respond.
What was emailed was a note from a church saying they have permission. There was no new application emailed. This was emailed Thursday, received by me on Saturday when I came back to the office.
Yeah.
So there is no new application. The last application that was submitted was not considered by this board because it was rejected before it got to this board. So there's not currently anything being considered.
The application that we submitted back in May, you're stating you did not receive it?
No, the one from May was rejected. It didn't come to this board because it was rejected by
Okay.
public safety before it even got to this board to consider it.
And I think that was the conversation we had last meeting, was sort of trying to establish communication between the organization and the council. I don't think we ever received any communication that it was rejected.
it was rejected that day when you were sitting here asking us?
No, we submitted one after that.
We don't have any submissions after our last meeting.
If you submitted a hard copy,
We
then there
submitted
should
a
have
hard
been one
copy per the
stamped
request.
and received at our
Yeah.
office.
The one that you received per the request that had said per Larry Hayden's request was before the last meeting, which is the one that
That's
was
what I said, I thought we
rejected
had-
before it got to this board.
Yeah.
There has not been anything submitted since that one.
In that rejection, how do we find out that it's rejected and why, so that we can work on it?
When you were here at the public hearing and you were informed on the record that it was not being considered by this board because it wasn't approved by public safety. So it hadn't made it through the process to get to the board for approval.
How do we improve on the public safety?
That's something we've worked with over a lot of meeting hours with a couple, I don't know if they're your predecessors, but other representatives of your group. We've laid out several things, both written and verbally, and we continue to not have any of those expectations met. There's no changes. We get resubmitted the same thing with the same issues. That's been the experience I've had in the 10 months I've been here. This was all very clearly explained in person with Mr. Ayers before he acted very inappropriately in our office and we asked him to leave last summer. I gave him a very clear expectation. Here's 4 things you could do in the next 3 hours if you can get these done. And he said he was on it. And then what I found out is that for the next 3 hours, he was walking around to every other business in town telling them that the council hated baseball and didn't want kids to play it. And then he came back and told me untruthfully that he had addressed all those issues. So I called and asked the people if he had addressed them, and he had not, which has been the experience we had, which is why, because I personally have spent a lot of time trying to make it work last summer, and we see continued misrepresentations, and it's hard to say that we could justify taxpayer money for me to spend much more time trying to help change these things, because the reality is there are these baseline issues that have to be addressed. And I don't know that tournaments of your size can fit. I don't know.
Per the request, we did downsize it. Per the request, we did provide parking. We did provide information on how we were going to expand upon the parking. And again, I don't know how we, per the requirements that you requested, right?
I know that
we've provided that.
the public safety concern was that there was not permission. We were told that there was permission from 8 to 10 different places to park there. That turned out not to be true. We were told that again at the last meeting. It turned out not to be true. Now, this weekend, you emailed me a note from one of the churches, but we are still getting messages. We got a message last week that you were approved to park at the senior center. And we talked to the senior center, and she said, no, I have an event. They can't park here. So we just keep going round and round with the same, I don't even want to say misrepresentations, but, you know, at some point, we want to have baseball in Ortonville, but there are certain expectations that have to be met in order to satisfy both fire and police concerns. And so until we can get those satisfied, this board can't, I don't want to say can't consider it, but is not going to consider it because we're community partners with those agencies, and they're the first line of approval.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I respect it. I will push, I suppose, to if possible. I've been on the email chains. I've been copied in. Is it possible? Is it possible to have those 4 items laid out explicitly in an email so that we can address
They
those?
were last year.
I wasn't on that.
Well,
so
but that
I'm
was
taking charge.
specifically for that event that he was trying to put on that week, which was when he was in my office asking
I'm
what they
looking for
needed
the
to
future,
do.
right? And that's kind of what we talked to the board last meeting was how can we come together, right? We say that we want to have baseball in this community. Our boys are winning tournaments. They're representing our community. Their hard work and their passion is fun to watch. And I feel like us as an organization, we need to clean some things up. And I think that Bo and myself have tried, we've made strides to do so. So what I want to try to focus on, not maybe dwelling on the past, but how can we improve for the future so that if we say that we're a community that wants to have baseball, then we work towards standing behind that statement. So I asked, can I
We're standing
get
behind
those
it, and
four?
that we would love to have it. We need to find an organization who's willing to work with us to make it work.
And sir, I'm stating that I'm requesting that. Can I get those four things so that we can move
I'll look back through email. I'm not sure if those four things apply to your current application permit, but to the extent that they do, I'd be more than happy to share it with you.
But we just stated that we rejected it because we didn't address those four things. And so.
I'm sorry, the four things, when I said four things, this was last summer when Mr. Ayers was in my office begging to make something happen at the last second. And I said, these are four things you could do today that might make this work. And he told me, no problem.
Can I ask a question? I know last year, one of the things that kind of disappointed me a bit is because there was an indication initially that, yes, you would have some kind of a shuttle service in place to alleviate the parking within the village to be able to address that. And then when it got closer, we found out that no, that there were no plans for shuttle. And it seems since then, I have not seen anything that indicates a willingness to provide some kind of a shuttle from a more remote area, which would be better for the residents in the area, not to have a lot of people parked up in town, would be to provide some kind of at least shuttle service or something like that. Is there any consideration of your group to look into something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with the thought process of downsizing it to the size that we did for those two fields, as with the amount of parking that was available, it should be sufficient, but I think that's maybe where we lacked maybe some back and forth to help us understand it's not big enough, you know what I mean?
That's the other issue that I have when I've been looking at those, because there's a lot of statements made that there's parking arrangements, but there's nothing included from the places that you're indicating are granting parking to indicate that they have approved that. And that, I think that would really help if you actually had something hard copy to see that, yes, here's something official from this organization stating that they agree to this, here's something from that place stating that they agree with it. Without that, it's just your word, and we can't just take that.
Also, you haven't been going to the fire department for approval for food trucks. That's another reason why you're also getting denied.
That's good information, and that's what we need, right, is kind of that back and forth communication so that we know, and we can improve it on the next one, so that when we have that successful one, we then have that cookie cutter, we know exactly what needs to be.
When you guys are here and we print out the packet and it's uploaded to the website and everything, all the denials are written on there from Lieutenant Glover, Chief Quapis.
Where can I find those?
Right on our website.
Okay. Those don't get sent back to us. We have to go to the website to
And it's
find
in
it.
the packet that is provided here. And it's all written right down on there, saying why every single step is denied.
Gotcha. Okay.
Go ahead.
I think that's the portion we haven't seen back in recent past.
I'll be glad to talk about that, and I'll be bold with you. I denied it.
Okay.
And I'm the varsity baseball coach, and there's nobody in this town that wants to see baseball more than I do for the kids playing. But every time that application's come out, it's basically been false advertising. You say that you have the post office. I approve every permit that comes through here. And the post office has never allowed parking in their parking lot. They're a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week operation.
Yeah.
The other 3 locations that you guys have said that was approved parking were also false. I have to put my name on that permit. I am not putting my name on that permit as approving it when you guys continue to step on yourselves over and over and over with saying that you have approval from these things and you don't. It's not even close.
I don't believe the last application had the post office.
Yeah, it did, because I'm the one that saw it, and I saw the original permit. It was post office, it was the library, it was the township offices, and it was the senior center.
Senior center.
All of which you guys, I'm not saying you, the organization had no approval for. I went to each one of those. And the other problem with that, years ago, there's always been tournaments in this town.
Yeah.
And prior to your guys' organization, they were properly sized for the size and the parking that we have in this town. Kenny has beefed these tournaments up as basically a fundraiser for your organization of 40, 50 teams. And then we cannot handle that type of
The last application
scenario
was
that's
for 8 teams.
That was once it was downsized.
Right. That's what I guess what I'm referring to is literally the last application was 8 teams.
I've seen one application and it was downsized and it wasn't properly spelled out even in that application because it showed the size of both teams.
or what the initial tournament was gonna be for, and that there was no clarity in that application of how many teams it was going to be downsized to. And for that reason, I denied it. And there's nobody that wants to see these guys playing baseball more than I do.
Well, no, the other thing I have to point
There's
out
been a
though,
problem.
is it was 4 different dates on one application. You cannot do that. It has to be individual applications for every special event.
Okay.
Well, it sounds like you're trying to figure it out.
I hope that that's coming across.
Yes.
I don't have a horse in the race. My son's out of these fields, right? He's too big. He won't play. I have passion for baseball. I have passion for these boys and the hard work they put in. And I want to see them represent our community, in our community, and host a trophy for our community.
I
It'd
do
be
have one
amazing.
other question, because I watched, last time they were in town, I was watching them.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little concerned that the kids on the T-ball field, I believe they're 8U,
Okay.
they could hit that ball over the fence, and there's homes nearby and cars parked there, and I was just kind of concerned that you're using a T-ball field for
T-ball
8U.
field for that.
And I don't think that is really appropriate for as well as those boys could hit the
As
ball.
well as they could hit.
I was just kind of worried about your, you know.
The good thing, we're teaching them well. The bad thing is, and I can't speak for that team in the sense of I know that we have to get approval from the Parks and Recs to use those fields.
But I said there's
And maybe.
Two of those are T-ball
Yeah.
fields, and that's not
They're
really
wrong.
appropriate for the 8U. So that only
I'll
gives you
take
two
that back
fields.
to make sure that, take it back to the organization as a note that we need to make sure that we keep it under certain age groups for using that field, for
Part-
sure.
Part of that issue with, it, like you're bringing up, Linda, is that's been kind of the allure of what you guys, or I'm not saying, for the other tournaments, under the lights, you brought their short fields. It was the allure of being able to hit home runs. And that was a big part of what had went on prior. But you are 100% right. Those fields are too small. I have, because of the denial of these permits, either that me and Kenny or Bowen haven't sat down and talked about it. The township is right now is redoing the 2 township fields out at the township park, which are more than big enough for that age group for you guys to play on. Originally, that was designed for 4 fields. They're trying to go at that grant again to make that back to 4 fields. But those 2 fields will be done this year, and I recommended to the township that they get with you guys and work something out to where that is your home field out there. There is more than enough parking for whatever size tournament you wanna have. You can put on it whatever size you want it to, and it's, the fields are appropriate for the age. That has been talked about, and it was recommended to you guys. So, because those fields are not age appropriate for part of what's going on.
My son will play in the rec, he does every year for fall. He's 12, and he plays, and he's played there from 10 to 13 on those fields downtown. And that's put on by Parks and Rec.
Yes.
Two of
I
the
played on those
fields-
Those fields have never changed. They've always been the same size and for the same, and that same age group. I don't
Yeah.
dispute that with you at all.
Those 2 fields may be small, but their outfields back up, so there's not
Yeah, there's no issue.
That's not really a big issue. It's
It's
the
the
T-ball
T-ball,
fields.
yeah.
And the 2 T-ball fields, I know the one they used, I don't know if they used the second one, but I know the one T-ball field they used, and I wondered if a kid could hit the house, because they could really.
But the bottom line is, I mean, the village, I mean, you guys have brought the applications. I see the applications, and when the applications are actually false, I'm not gonna put my name on it, neither is the fire chief.
And I can
And that is why those permits have been denied. It has nothing to do with not wanting to see those kids on the field. But when you bring an application that's false, it's never gonna get approved.
Understood.
And then you have members come in and put this board out there by stating that, you know, that they don't wanna see kids on the field. That has nothing to do with the permit process.
And I think as an organization, we've made sure that we're represented by different people when we're at these board meetings. Again, as I've tried to make it very clear, I want to work with, I want this to be a part of our village.
I'll make it simple for you. Be accurate with your applications.
I
Have the
will-
right size
yeah,
tournament,
yeah.
and you'll probably see approval. But when you're gonna continue to put a false product on the paperwork for somebody else to sign, it's never gonna get approved by me.
Fair. I will, I'll make sure the last application that we submitted, I'll review that. I thought we were pretty accurate with that one. But
Attach,
noted.
attach those permissions.
Yeah.
Because you say you have the, and that's, I think, our biggest thing is the saying we have permission, and then we find out, I mean, the one time the library lady was sitting right there going. So, you know, attach those permissions right to the form, because at this point, any permission you say we have, you know, it's been false so many times that we need the proof that that permission has been granted.
Okay.
So attach it right.
As I tell my team,
For a shuttle.
it's a no-quit team, right? We're gonna have setbacks, and we're not gonna quit. We're not gonna give up. I hope that we'll come to an agreement and be able to have our boys play in this town again.
Because we want them,
Yeah, we
and I think
we
this,
want to have that.
this information that you are just now receiving, I think will be extremely helpful for you to move it forward.
Yeah.
Because I think it's information you didn't have, so, yeah.
Okay.
So we're looking forward to it.
So, again, I guess I just want to make it so that I can find out or read through it and make sure that we can work forward. I can find the denials on the website.
On the documents on demand, which you.
Documents on demand.
ortonvillevillage.com. You
Okay.
go over to documents.
Can you not copy and print one out for him to pick up, or send, email one?
It just seems like we should automatically email them back
Yeah.
when we deny it.
I'm not
Just
seeing right this
seems-
second.
It's,
Yeah.
'cause I don't know, I
is
don't think the
making it
form
too
says
hard
go
for
here
him.
to find out if it's approved or denied. So I think that's kind of what we assume is we're gonna get that information back.
I have Bowen's email, and yeah, I can.
I said, I know, I did a deep dive
Yeah.
in documents on demand. It's not super easy to navigate.
No,
through.
and then we're making this too hard. If either the village manager or the clerk could please get him the information.
Well, it's right on, I mean,
Thank you.
I could even email it to you.
But that's all right, I just, that way, it's better to come from the office instead of individuals.
Okay.
Just let it come from where it should come from.
Yeah, doesn't our permit process include some kind of response back to the permit applicants on this, on the disposition of their application?
supposed to.
That would be something that
It's supposed to.
If
would
it
be,
does, we definitely
be
need to do
added
that.
Up to this
Instead
point,
of them just having to look on site.
haven't
and
that's
stuff.
That's
ridiculous.
not adequate. We need to respond directly and say, hey, here's the status of your permit. It was either approved or
Okay.
denied.
When it's covered openly in a public meeting directly to the folks and they're informed in front of everybody, we haven't taken a
Then they would have it
second.
in writing.
I still
guess
think
that
they
it was
should have
denied.
it.
Yeah.
And the writing
you
is
know,
in the minutes, but
in the
yes,
course
we
of
can
business. And I think
Yeah,
certainly
it
recap.
is a business
I went
courtesy
back
for
through the
sure.
minutes the last two meetings, and there was nothing in the minutes that said we denied this application.
We didn't deny it because we never considered
never-
it. I keep saying that
Didn't accept
repeatedly.
it.
I've been saying that
Yeah.
for quite some time.
It never
It's
went,
not considered by this board until it's approved by our community partners
Yeah.
in public safety. So there is no denial.
Yeah.
There's no
Other than from them.
consideration by this board. In fact, it's not technically appropriate for them to even know the details of it because they would not have seen this application.
And I think
yet,
that
right?
was discussed 3 meetings ago, right? If I recall correctly.
It's discussed every time you guys come.
Last time you weren't here, and
Right.
I was here and had a conversation, so.
Yeah. So we
and
never
in that one,
denied it.
there was no discussion of it being denied, there was no discussion.
It wasn't
was just
denied.
resubmitted.
It was not considered.
we never denied it because we never accepted it to be on the agenda.
Couldn't even vote for it.
Yeah, we can't, we.
But I
there
think
was
that's
no
my
vote.
request, is just
Yeah.
kind of that,
Yeah.
we're saying, okay, the wrong word is denied, I
Yeah.
suppose, in this
Yeah.
context.
And that's an important word.
But we have to know that it's not accepted too, right? Like have that.
We couldn't
yeah.
deny nor accept. We couldn't make a.
It sounds like it was not a.
Because it never came to
Semantics.
us.
Department
We didn't get that
could, and
information
the
back.
Fire
Correct.
department can.
It did not
Right,
get
but
the approval.
That
according to
all
this
is funneled to
council,
our
it never
village
came that
manager.
far
Yeah.
for us to deny or accept it
Sure.
because other, going up the
And you need
chain,
to know that.
they did not accept
Yeah,
it.
In your
yes,
district.
please.
I get that.
Yeah,
Okay,
Thank you.
no quit. We'll continue.
thank
All right,
you.
thank you. Good. Hope to see it.
Thank you.
Okay, if I may just add that my whole issue is parking. That's it. That is it. And I don't know that even the solutions you've come up with yet are gonna be enough to convince me, but you're going in the right direction. Getting these approvals are fine, but let's just do some quick math. There's 18 teams. 8, okay.
They downsized it, but
What was it when it was big?
That summer slam was the last one that we hosted. Again, my son wasn't in that bracket, so it'd be tough for me to fairly tell you how many. We were in the bracket.
It was significantly larger.
Yeah, it was.
It went up, I believe, to even like 18U, which they don't even have teams for in that
Yeah.
age group.
See what?
True, but those were held at the other school where there's ample parking. Downtown here was only, again, I don't want to be on record by saying wrong one, especially when we're saying.
Aw.
But I don't feel like we had 18 teams down here. I feel very confident with even up to 18 teams down here.
But if you put it all on one application, that gets really confusing. You might want to do one for each location if you're separating them. That would explain things better to us and the fire department, and police department.
Mr. Jenkins, you can go again if you want.
Is that 3 minutes?
We're doing public comments. I was gonna say you can go again if you want.
no.
No? Okay. Cat
He's
got your
good.
tongue there for a minute. Okay.
Ashley has something to say.
All right. Items from trustees.
Okay. Items from trustees. Let's start down with Linda.
All right. I guess what I need to bring is that we did have another interlocal agreement. I went to the township meeting where the pickleball people were complaining about the issue that arose since we last met. And we did, come to a resolution on how to move forward, and we have going to be requesting a meeting and forming some joint efforts to get something in place, dealing with the problems at Sherman Park and other things where there's a crossover of responsibility. I think that Sherman Park became the big issue, but there's a lot of other areas we found that there's a lot of overlap, and we need to get that all worked out. So that is moving forward, and I also am moving forward, having discussions about continue to have some sort of update at Crossman Park. My goal is something for younger children, and I saw that there's a possibility of some toddler daycare coming into the village, so I think that it gives me added incentive to get that toddler play structure in Crossman Park. That's all I have, and I have not been to any Septemberfest meetings, so I have no idea how that's rolling.
Kay Green.
The only thing I have to report is that you and I and Melanie attended the Main Street event, and it was really nice for their 25th. I thought it was really, Shelby was there, and Matt. They really went all out to make it very nice, and it's nice to have the DDA recognized for the efforts that they put in. We felt they should have maybe won a couple other awards, but we took one home, so that's good. I think we've taken awards home for a number of years now in a row. So, that's all.
They certainly know we're there.
Yes, they do.
Melanie.
All right. Couple things. So the Rite Aid property, you may have noticed that the grass is really tall. I called the leasing company and spoke with the gentleman, and then also I sent an email to both our village manager and Groveland supervisor, and Supervisor Scramlin has sent out a communication to the company to get them out there. So both of them will be keeping an eye on it and, figure out if it doesn't get done, who's going to hire the company and then bill them, so, because it is an eyesore, and it's when you first come into downtown Ortonville there, and it does not look good. They're on the planning commission. We
Before
are.
you move on, could
Oh,
I
yes.
ask something?
Uh-huh.
I'm very confused on why you would be doing that. Why would you be contacting, as a village council person, contacting the Groveland superintendent and the owner, when that should be, if we're
It's the
gonna do
leasing
it,
agent.
it should have been from the village, though.
Yes.
You are speaking for the council
No, I
when you
am
say
not.
things.
And
That's how
Kay,
it comes
Kay,
across.
well, no. I talked to the village manager about getting that out. And I talked to the supervisor on this property. It was a meeting that I attended, and I've talked to him several times about this property because of the gas station and the planning
But
committee.
does he understand it's you as a private individual talking, or does he think it's because you're on the village council, because you don't speak for me?
No, and
I
I
would
have
agree with all
and
that
as you
say.
know, I have a real issue with that because people
Right.
on this council do that. Yes, so you know that. You know better than that to even say that,
I don't
Kay.
know why you would do that. I really don't. I would not think that you would. I would think
Kay,
that was just
it
taking
was
it out
convers-
of Matt's.
No, he
hand.
knew about it. It was given to him.
But it was given to him after the fact.
No, it wasn't. It was given to him before, and I will talk to you after. It was given to him first.
Okay, well, I just
Thank you.
find that.
So anyways, it's because you don't know the whole story, Kay.
But I do.
Please don't assume. No, you don't.
You said you talked to the
You
township
don't. Please, I will talk to you outside of the meeting.
I do feel like, I kind of agree with Kay that I feel like you were telling us things and then doing them yourself, which is not.
No, it's about mowing, guys. That is it. And a conversation came up with.
Well, you're
Both
including
and
it in your
both.
report, so it sounds like more than a casual
I
conversation.
wanted to
so-
I wanted to let you know. I know Kay brought it up on a text, and I had
This
answered
morning
her.
to
So I thought I
Matt.
would let everyone know where it's at. And Matt knew about it very first, Kay. He knew about it immediately. So planning is working on short-term rental and snow emergency ordinances. And Linda, yes, Stepping Stone is expanding and coming down to 30 South. They'll have up to 12 kids there. And we also have a new at-home dog grooming business that is on Kersley that can have up to 4 dogs, and it will be in their home. And that was approved. And DDA was covered. And if anybody is interested, ranked choice voting, there is a committee hearing in Lansing on Friday for ballot language, if anyone is following that.
Question for planning, about planning commission. Are they continuing to work on the capital improvement plan?
It's on our agenda, but not right this minute because we were waiting to see what direction we were going with village. That takes up the majority of the,
Okay.
the focus. So now we'll get back to it and
Okay.
revise it, but.
Yeah, because that was, I think that would go a long way towards addressing a lot of the residents' concerns
Mhm.
about how we're gonna handle this moving forward. And when I was on planning commissioner, I pushed for a long time for better capital improvement plan,
Mhm.
which I do see we're
We have a
getting
good
there.
one.
Yeah, I do see we're getting there.
Mhm.
And that makes me feel really good. I just don't wanna see that lose momentum or fall off the wayside like it did in the past when, we had some, it was during a particular village manager that kind of like let that die for a while. So I'm really glad it's in progress, and I hope
Yeah.
that they, make it even more robust than the one we have now.
Well, I have a question about the dog groomer. Is there, we were just talking earlier about it not having a great enforcement of things. Is there some sort of follow-up that's gonna be happening, because that seems like, I just know what street it's down, but it just seems like a very small area to start increasing water
Yeah,
flow in our septic
and
fields.
Matt can talk more about that, but he went through Oakland County first and did all of that before even coming to planning to make sure that he could actually do that. So, they are the ones that check.
But is
but-
there
Yeah,
gonna be a
they-
follow-up to make sure that he's getting just the 4 dogs and the overflow of
Right, and that would be the health department's licensing. I'm not sure what their process is of doing, if they do random spot checks or auditing. I don't know. That's a
I mean, it's
question
just
I can
that we have
definitely
so
ask.
many septic problems in our
Mhm.
village that I was kind of surprised.
Yeah, and that's why he was so limited to the 4 dogs, and he can't have more than one there at the same time because that becomes boarding, and there was all kinds of kind of things he had to jump through in order to make it happen. But he came across to me as the kind of person that he wasn't trying to build a business. He wasn't trying to go out and have a bunch of dogs. He just, whether he's passionate about it or what, he was more than happy with 4 dogs. That was
Okay,
that was great to him. It seemed like, I can't speak for him, but that was the impression I got, so.
I just thought that could get out of hand easily
Right,
if no one's.
and to the extent, I mean, I suppose that's certainly something that an ordinance officer could be checking in on. I'd have to look at exactly if we have an ordinance that addresses it directly that would piggyback, I guess, on the health department's authority. That's a good question.
I don't know, just kind of curious.
Okay, thank you, Melanie. Larry?
Yes, I did attend the SEMCOG General Assembly meeting on June 12th. I did pick up some brochures, which I gave to every council member here, about the year in review. That kind of covers a lot of the things that SEMCOG has done in the past year, and a little bit of information about what SEMCOG is, what they can offer for communities. When I was there, we have been talking about things like, how do we increase funding for local roads? I know that they've been pushing hard to try to make sure that the governor's next phase of the road program that she's pushing for will actually get more money to local communities. So hopefully, if that's successful, we will see a little bit more money coming our way from the state to help us address issues with our local streets. The other thing, I did also talk to them there about some other ways that we can leverage some of the grants that are available from them, like the TAP grants. And TAP grants can be used, some of the residents were today expressing concerns about the speeds and how do we do some traffic calming. One of the thoughts I had was potentially we could take a look at whether we could put in some crosswalks like they did in Oxford that would kind of give a big visual, so drivers coming down would see that and, subconsciously slow down. Just, those do have a calming effect. Another concern I have was, and a TAP grant could go towards those, another place that a TAP grant could be used would be potentially the sidewalk going up by the mill. Right now, there's no way somebody with a stroller or a wheelchair could get up that little stairway and continue down that sidewalk. But a TAP grant could be used to potentially add a bypass around that could make it more handicap accessible and improve the mobility for our residents up past that old mill section. So those are some ways that we could.
Larry?
I am on streets,
Okay, I
yes.
thought we were.
So those are some ways that we could potentially leverage TAP grants, if we could put some applications for some projects that we thought we might want to do for improving mobility.
Are those state grants?
Those, the SEMCOG manages federal money, but that includes things like, the TAP grants it's a transportation alternative program, so that includes all aspects of mobility, like trails, sidewalks, things like
But
that.
is the TAP
But is it
grant
federal or
dispersed
state,
with
is
federal?
what
Is
she
It's
that-
federal.
That is a federal grant. okay.
That is federal money, yes. And SEMCOG manages that for the southeastern Michigan communities.
So it's run by the state, not to step on you, it's run by the state, but because it's federal source money, it's all by federal regulations.
Yeah.
So the state has to live up to those, which means they have to impose them on you.
Yep. And, yeah, it was a good meeting, and there, I want to get Matt more involved too, because I know that they've got a lot of resources. So we can really, hopefully we can get a time to get to a streets committee together and kind of review what sort of opportunities we can have and what sort of resources we can leverage from SEMCOG and other sources. And that's basically it from me.
Okay, thanks, Larry. Alex?
For me, I can confirm on Friday that the proposal that I gave to September Fest for sponsorship has been approved by a company called RealTruck.com. So they are going to help sponsor September Fest, which is pretty sweet. That's kind of the main thing I kind of been working on. The other thing is, since we've kind of been talking about the millage and all these things, I've been talking with neighbors and getting their kind of input on what they kind of expect. And a lot of it is the speeding. We've kind of, it was all addressed here, and I think speed bumps or some sort of crosswalk is needed. Something, and it's not just Mill Street, it's also James Street. They come down that hill there, and I actually kind of said, I'll walk out on drivers coming down there 45 miles an hour. I don't care. You can hit me. I'll see you in court. That's kind of my motto. So,
You should live on Granger.
yeah.
But that's way too,
Yeah,
way too
yeah.
fast.
But the main thing is that I finally got the approval. It's been pretty painstaking to get this company to sponsor it. It's been a lot of back and forth, so I'm pretty excited that they finally approved that.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, one point I almost forgot about. I did attend the Septemberfest meeting, and everything's pretty much getting finalized. John Hugg said that we should be getting the finalized schedule and everything in time for our next council meeting.
Okay, thanks. That takes care of items from trustees. We have no unfinished business. We do have 5 items of new business. The first is a levy resolution. I believe this is going to read almost exactly like the one that we approved during the open meeting section. So that's it. What's that?
This would just be to notify that we did, in fact, vote for it in the last meeting, now that we did.
So we
And
don't have to
that
vote
is-
on this
it's-
one? We
It's
do.
to be incorporated into the budget, which is the next item, yeah.
I
So
was
those
going
would
to
be
try to lay
combined
out how
since
you
we
wanted
voted.
that motion to sound.
Yeah, that motion is written on that sheet.
All right, be it resolved by the Village Council, Village of Ortonville, Oakland County, Michigan, at its regular meeting on June 23rd, 2025, that the above budget be adopted for fiscal year ending 6/30/2025, and that the tax revenue marked with an asterisk above be collected by the village treasurer at a rate of blank mills per blank dollars of taxation
No, this-
valuation on appropriate
No,
properties.
this is,
Sorry, you have the
that's a
completed
different
one.
one.
That's the budget one.
That's the budget one.
Oh.
Okay.
The levy one is
Go
the
ahead.
one that we
Somebody
got.
All right, I'm gonna go
else.
for it. All right, so be it resolved by the Village Council, Village of Ortonville, Oakland County, Michigan, at the regular Village Council meeting on June 23rd, 2025, that the above budget be adopted for fiscal year 2026, ending 6/30/26. Further, that the tax revenue marked with, what do I say, red asterisk?
With a black asterisk, I
With a,
should say. I
okay,
apologize.
yeah, with a black asterisk above, be collected by the village treasurer at a rate of 8.0 mils per 1,000 of taxable valuation on appropriate properties within the village. And further, that the tax revenue marked with an black asterisk above be collected by the village treasurer at the rate of 2.8 mils per 1,000 of taxable valuation on appropriate properties within the village.
Support.
Okay, any further discussion on the budget and the resolution?
I guess I have a
roll.
question.
Yeah.
I probably should have said it earlier. With the new roads, and I know some of them are getting 4 inches and some are 2 inches, are we putting more no semi-truck road signs up? Do we have any plans for that?
So the no truck, all the local village roads, meaning the residential streets like James, Myron, those are already no truck just by the code, by CDL code, the drivers. I don't know
Well,
why,
a
I
lot
can't
of
think of
them,
the word, traffic code.
I can tell you, I live on the corner of James and Ball, and I can tell you lots of times
not
semi-truck,
being followed.
18 wheelers are coming, making the turn.
What do the garbage trucks do on those roads?
Garbage trucks are exempt.
Yeah.
Because they
okay.
have to hit every house.
My
so.
thing is, there's those main businesses right there on Marion, right there. Those semi trucks are kind of coming around,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
you know, and they're going to damage the new road
Right.
if it's only 2 inches there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess that's a concern I personally have is what can we do to mitigate that? And if they do continue to do it, why
Because they do.
do we fine them? Do we do something
Yeah.
along those lines?
Yeah, so like the ones for the dollar store that, yes,
They do
that
it
drop they
just
go
about
around.
weekly. They
get-
come
yep.
around my corner right
Yeah,
there.
no,
Right, and so what would happen when we get to that phase is that it would be 4 inches from 15 to that business, but the expectation would need to be that they're not continuing, right? I'm understanding what you're
Yeah,
saying,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
That they don't continue east past that business, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Moved and supported, roll call, please.
Walker,
Yes.
Rydell,
yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Rosenberg.
Yes.
Okay, takes us past the levy resolution, fiscal year 2026. I don't even know what this is.
You just
about.
did that. You just combined those two.
Yeah, I think,
Okay.
yeah, it seemed like both were covered with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Resolution for grants, item C.
This is a grant through the Michigan Participating Plan for security equipment. They require that we have a authority from a resolution at a public meeting from this body in order to apply. So it's pretty straightforward and boilerplate. You'll find it very near the end of your packet. It's entitled Resolution of Support Michigan Township Participating Plan Grant Application.
I make a motion to
This is right here.
approve the resolution of support as presented. Is that adequate?
I think so, yes.
Support? Then we'll need nays and yays on this.
Yeah, so it will need.
Is this for something specific, or is this a general?
It is. It's specifically for the Michigan Township Participating Plan Grant, which goes towards security items, security cameras and Wi-Fi for them, particularly out at the new concession stand, but also on our building. Any type of security upgrade you do, that could be cybersecurity, it could be physical security. That's what the program covers. So it's risk reduction is what they call it. So.
I was just wondering what you had it earmarked for.
Amber, do you have a copy of this?
This
Okay.
the surveillance stuff, who's holding onto this video footage?
Yeah.
And is it
That's
is
part
us?
of what's being determined through the interlocal agreement,
Okay.
is who's responsible for the preservation and maintenance of that building, and
I was-
that's gonna go with securing it.
Okay, is there a motion for this?
Yeah, I made the
Larry made
motion,
it.
yeah.
Okay.
And I support it.
Okay, moved and supported for the resolution of support, Michigan Township Participating Plan Grant Application. We made a couple of changes on this. However, the motion is as it was stated, and the vote will be a roll call.
Nidal,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Rosenberg.
Yes. Okay, gets us past, resolution for grant. Cable franchise fees.
This was a question that came up from the interlocal agreement meeting, the subcommittee meeting. Apparently, and I say apparently just because I'm newer and learning about this, there are cable franchise fees paid by Spectrum to all of the municipalities who have their equipment in their jurisdiction of a set amount that they come up with, and I hope you don't ask me what that formula is, because I have no idea, we just take what they give us. And apparently, there's been an agreement in place for some years that the village is a pass-through of those funds, sending them directly to the township. There's been question as to the value of those dollars being spent, and I think that committee came out feeling like it may be time to investigate executing our release from that contract, which is a 30-day notice release. We're currently contracted through December 31st of this year. A 30-day out would obviously get us out 3 to 4 months earlier. That's the question on the table, is whether we want to consider that now.
Whether we want to continue with
Yeah,
the
so
services they provide?
Yep, it's approximately $15,000 a year we pay for the broadcast of 10 to 11 meetings. And there was just question as to whether there was value in that, and so. I don't know if this was, something that you want as a discussion item or moving toward a vote, but.
And you would be recording these, what would Plan B be to record these
Yeah,
for the public?
Yeah, many municipalities are recording them is on something even as simple as a phone and broadcasting them for free on YouTube. So there are definitely possibilities out there. It's something that we could do at a moment's notice. We could flex into something else, but that's a valid concern. We would have to come up with something, and so, where there would be value on a return, where a purchase of equipment would be covered in pretty short term, I would think, if we were to keep those funds.
And other than the meetings, what other what other
There is
services
a
do they
list of
provide?
services in the contract, but I have not witnessed any of them occurring since I came here, and I haven't had anybody else read through it and say, yes, this is happening or that's happening. So that is one of the questions that we were left without an answer to.
Should we table this until
what I think.
we get answers?
I think so.
I mean, I'm not
That's not up
prepared
to
to
me.
vote on it tonight.
Yeah, I don't.
Well, the deal
wanna-
is, we probably, do we run on a month-to-month cycle?
We're committed to, we're at the end of a 2-year commitment right now.
Sure, but does it go from the 1st to the 31st?
Oh, yes.
Okay, then, whatever we do today really wouldn't matter. And we can agree to send them a letter of cancellation from our July meeting, and it would take effect, 30 days
30
later.
days after that, correct.
Okay.
Okay.
That way we could get more information on it. All right, well, yes, does anybody want to do that or not want to do that? Are we
I'm-
comfortable?
No?
I like that. yeah.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion to table this meeting, or table this topic of the cable franchise to the next meeting.
I want to
Support.
I want to make a comment about one of the items in this contract. It does say that we may terminate this agreement upon 30 days written notice with or without cause. But if a municipality terminates without cause, the municipalities will pay consultant a severance allowance of 1 monthly installment in full settlement of any claims that they may have against the municipality. So I just want to know there is a little clause in there as well that could be, not even sure how that would be used, but I thought that was interesting, there was an extra
Kind of
clause.
like your apartment deposit, you lose it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lose it.
So they had an extra clause in there, could be a little more than we thought.
And at the next meeting, could you bring some information on what sort of alternatives and some kind of evaluation about what would best serve the public's interest in terms of being able to access recorded copies of our meetings?
We would need it before the next meeting if there's some way to get it out to us. That way we can be prepared to vote.
Yeah, well, I mean, in the packet or whatever that we get for it, yeah.
Okay, it's been motioned and supported to table this till next month. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. On our next agenda, there will be an unfinished business of cable franchise fees. Leads us to E, DDA fiscal year 2026 budget. Matt, I don't see yours in here.
It's this one.
Very last one?
Got the blue column.
Oh, see, the thing is,
Mine was almost.
Yeah, Ken's packet has that.
mine is missing.
All right, here's one.
Anyway, the DDA has to go through a budget process just like we do. They have their revenue sources, and they also have their expenditures that they have to put into a budget every year. This is theirs. It actually becomes a subset of our budget, but we do have to approve their budget so that they can operate with some money and a clean slate, and they can start out the new year with a new set of numbers.
So is Matt going to speak about it?
Matt, just a quick highlight. This isn't, what is substantially different from this year than last year? Substantially. What's that? Yeah, I wouldn't have thought so. I mean, this is a cookie cutter budget.
That right there, yeah.
I like to think I spent a little time on it, trying to be as creative as I possibly could.
Yeah, well, it bled through on this side, and I can see where you just used a little whiteout and that, what do they call that? Paste and
I guess the o-
copy paste.
I guess the only major thing I would point out is the 24-25 budget, which you approved similar time last year, in the revenue side, did have us using a little over 45,000 in our fund balance. That did not happen this year. Projects that we anticipated needing those fund balance funds for did not happen, and so we've reallocated those to the new budget in front of you, 25, 26.
Okay.
Yeah, I was wondering about the discrepancy between the current budget end fund balance and the next year's budget beginning fund balance. So that accounts for it. You didn't spend all the money that was allocated yet. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Is there a motion on the DDA budget?
I make a motion to approve the DDA budget.
I mean, wonderful.
There was a motion, and did someone support it?
Yeah, it did.
Okay, roll call on the DDA budget?
Green,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walker,
Yep.
Marvell,
Yes.
Brooke,
Yes.
Quisenberg.
Yes. Well, you're gonna have to send a text message to Courtney. She probably isn't home yet, and you can just say, start spending away. Okay, village manager report.
Was that official, or was that, so it was kind of under your
Right?
breath? Sounded like there was regret in having to call that forward.
Well, I'll reserve that for right now.
Yeah, right. I'll go as quick as I can because we've discussed so much tonight. Obviously, from the treasurer front, just kind of recapping the last month, things that I've been doing. There was a treasurer-to-treasurer meeting and an Oakland County tax user meeting. These were trainings wherein I go and kind of learn more about how to use our software, how to actually implement the tax bills, all that kind of really fun stuff. We are at the stage now where tonight, now that I have the tax amount committed, I can complete some work on taxes, get them committed with the county, work on getting them printed and mailed out, and by law they have to be in residents' mailboxes by next Tuesday, so wish me luck on that. I think we'll get it done. I actually have the dollar amounts and whatnot, so that's where we're at on taxes. I know that June is kind of a crazy month because we have a tax season and the new fiscal year both, so obviously significant amount of my time has been spent between getting the tax season ready, getting these budgets prepared, and then getting the paving project set up. It's been quite a lot lately. So those things continue to move on. I've been going to the September Fest meetings. I had been working on an idea of getting a hot air balloon tether because they're extremely attractive to drivers, and I want to give people a reason to turn in. But people who fly hot air balloons really don't like to be tied to the ground, and so you got to talk them into it. And I've sweet talked a couple local, but my sweet talk has not been enough. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to come through with that. But otherwise, September Fest will continue to be a great event. I have explored the possibility of some fireworks. We went through. I worked a lot with Chief Kwapis about firework requirements and other things, and we found out we could stage a show. This is conceivably, if we got permissions, we could stage a show from Harvey Swanson that could be seen from downtown. So that's one of those things that we're kind of considering as to could we put that together in time for September Fest. All of this kind of leads up to the next 4th of July, which, as I've told you before, is the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. So technically starting July 6th of this year is the 250th year of the country. So we will be doing some decoration for that. We will be really dolling up the old mill this week. I'm hoping that those flags come in very shortly here. What's that?
It's already started.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean the old mill. Old Town Hall. Old Mill already has the bunting out, and we've got some other things we're going to hope to work with them on down there. Old Town Hall, though, I bought a 10-foot flag to drape down and some larger bunting, and it should look really pretty. And so kind of excited about doing that decoration. I also bought the 250 celebration flag, so we can fly that throughout the year too. So, and maybe into the next year as well. So, I went to a water resource education thing with Linda, and I don't think anybody else here was there. I think Linda touched on it last time, but since I was here remotely, I was just going to mention that continues to be a lot of discussion about how water works in our county that really leaves us out. It doesn't, none of it ever seems to apply to us, which is one of those things where it's hard to keep getting that hope up. because we really are so unique that the likelihood of us finding much support from the county and them putting resources toward helping us, I mean, we really are kind of on our own on that one. Not that you didn't know that, but, just kind of bringing that report back. I did meet with a couple folks from the Lions Club talking about potentially helping with equipment, new playground equipment in Crossman Park, whether that be helping with design and builds if we were to build something ourselves, or funding and helping. And so it was just interesting to get those talks going with them. The best way to share bad news is just to come straight out with it. The big, gnarly, really pretty tree in Crossman Park has to come down, which is really unfortunate because it's so cool. But we had arborists look at it, and they run like a radar kind of sensor through it to tell how rotted it is, and it's a real danger. Bob told me he's known for several years because he has a lot of skill with trees, and he's known that that time was really coming, and it seems like the time is probably here. So we're working on getting commitment from a tree removal company to take that down, and then that will open up more play space where we can talk about maybe putting some younger kids' play structure there where the footprint of that tree is now. It'll be a very sad thing to lose that tree, but it really is unsafe.
Is that the only one that they?
That's the only one that was pressing that needed to come down. Anything else we would take down in there would be because we decide to change the play structure layout or something. They'd be optional, but
Any cottonwoods to get rid of.
What's that?
Cottonwoods, get rid of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
I think most of the other trees are pines that are in there. It's the only one that's kind of unique, but.
There's a walnut tree in there too.
Oh, that's right. It drops black walnuts.
Though Bob he did such a great job last year, I never saw a black walnut on the ground, so.
Right. The flooring for the village office, I think I reported before, I was able to secure a great deal on flooring. I have too much of it, but we're working on selling some of it off. But I've been chipping away at it, and we were given a quote of almost $9,000 to install it, which is what we paid for the flooring, and I just wasn't cool with that, so I've been trying to do it myself, but man, it's moving too slow. So Amber has worked with sourcing a couple quotes, and they're much more affordable, and it's probably going to be a better use of my time to pay a couple $1,000s and have someone else install it rather than me keep doing a couple feet at a time for who knows how many years, the pace I'm on right now. It does look nice. It's going to be fresher and cleaner in there and be better
Thank you.
floor,
It looks really nice.
Yeah, but,
It really does.
The Pocket Park, again, really such a cool project. Huge kudos to Stephanie and her crew, and Courtney and all the folks who were part of planning it, and our DPW guys who were part of helping with the mulching and planning. We were out there today discussing the field stone path, talking about extending it around and putting in more plantings to really fill that up. And so that continues to move on, but I think it's really a charming thing that's been added. And I've been there 5 or 6 times now since it's been open, and there's always people in there playing. It's just really a cool space. So as mentioned before, we are thinking about putting some sort of mural on it would be the east side of the 476 building. It is a very huge canvas, as you can tell, but Matt and I actually talked today about putting together 5 or 6 people in a kind of a committee just to be a creative committee. One of the folks who's expressed an interest in painting that mural and just kind of talking about ideas and seeing where that develops. So that's something we're hopefully going to be doing within the next week, and kind of moving toward how to design it and how to fund it and all those kind of things. So hopefully in fairly short order, we're reporting some good news on that. Obviously working on the budgets. The last thing I want to report is that I have hired a new ordinance officer. Ed, who some of you got to meet, did a great job for us, but he had some significant life changes come up this winter, and was not able to come in a way that was consistent. So I just made it easier on him by letting him know he didn't need to. So I have hired the planning commissioner, Pete Burkett, as our new ordinance officer. We went through and interviewed him. He interviewed at my request, because this isn't really a position that there's going to be a lot of candidates for. It's a very small amount of money, a very small amount of work, but as someone who's in the community, who is trustworthy, who can build conversations and relationships with people. He works in realty, so he understands the image we're trying to go for, and so I think he will be a very positive addition to the team in that way, and I know there are a few ongoing ordinance issues that need to be addressed immediately, and so he'll be starting working on those next week, so you'll see him out and about a little bit more.
Cool.
And anything that you haven't made me aware of as far as ordinance stuff goes, let me know, because now I can, delegate that to him and have him take an ownership over that, tracking those things, so. That's what I got.
Good speed talking.
Yeah.
Said good fast talking.
Yeah. Real quick question. I know in the past we had some discussions about what to do about the street speed signs that we had, and some different options about getting a new harness or trying to convert solar or replacing or whatever. Any progress on what to do to get some?
Yeah, so the last activity with that is that I had I've got a close friend who owns a shop that just does wiring harnesses. He does it for fuel injection and transmissions, but it's applicable. The wiring harnesses are applicable everywhere. And he took them and him and his guy at his shop were convinced that they could fix them in a couple days. They were very reasonable how he was going to fix them, but he was in the middle of selling his shop, and the guy he sold his shop to that same week decided, okay, it's time for me to own the shop and it's time for you to go. And so he called me and told me, I don't know how to do these. You're going to have to come pick them up. So unfortunately, that was the end of that. We do have another gentleman who lives in town who described himself as a master tinkerer and said he would take a stab at it. I don't know I'm not sure that that's really the best route to go.
You can't break them.
But it is,
They're not working now, right?
Yeah.
But part of it is they are not well made, which is why they didn't last very long. And so how much do we bolster them, or do we move on to another solution? And frankly, that's a conversation that was on my plate, but it hasn't picked up in 3 months at least, that Bob and I are concerned with. But it just fell off on my list of priorities, I suppose, is the best way to say it.
I just thought, since that topic does continue to get raised by residents at our meetings, it's probably something we should at least.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've written down several ideas about traffic calming. There's a couple other things we've been talking about. Bob and I have talked, and none of it's necessarily formalized yet, but we talked about removing the flashing red light and putting well-lit crosswalks there with the light-up stop signs and things, and that certainly would make sense at Ball and Cedar as well.
Be careful about that. We talked about doing that before. It's because we have so many specials in the area. They use mentally challenged group homes. They use those lights religiously. That's why we didn't do it before. Just, more information.
Yeah, no, that's definitely needs to be part of that conversation.
I've seen the ones where when you touch them and then they flicker to let people know that you can cross. Is that
It's
what
like
you're
by the
talking
school.
Yeah, we have one like that
No,
Similar,
yeah, around on Church by the.
no, she's saying it's not the same.
not exactly
not
the same, but
Okay.
something similar this just, it flashed and, made it very obvious that people.
Yeah, where the Pollyant Trail crosses Burdick and Oxford next to the ice cream shop
Oh,
is where
yeah.
they have those.
Yeah.
I know what you're
Yep.
talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know that those things tend to be quite expensive, but the other side of that is the safe routes to school and the other partnerships with keeping walkways safe are probably freer than any other organization with their grant funding.
And what
So
was
that might be.
Lieutenant Glover, what type of sign?
That smart cart?
Yeah, he's
Smart-
talking
what
about the one, it's
are
like, it's got a
those-
hitch and a couple wheels, and it's
Okay.
got the radar sign
Do
that's
we get
digital.
those from Oakland County, or we have to pay for them, or we get them from Oakland County?
He was saying buy them. I thought you rented them from the county, but he's saying buy them.
Yeah, you've owned them.
I'm wondering, like, the price on
Yeah.
those.
Let's see what Google has to
Something
say.
else to
while
look
you-
into.
Yeah.
I do respect
there's
those
a-
more
there's
than I
a
would
big
respect like
downside
the
to
sign
those
that's on
signs.
Oakwood. Like they got the digital sign that tells you your speed on Oakwood.
Yeah, yeah.
Just like the ones that we had downtown here.
I
Those
know I'm
don't
not-
Don't do it.
They don't do it for me. I
Okay.
try to do a high score on Oakwood.
Yeah.
Just being honest.
It's like, right, it's like, what's your score?
No,
Yeah.
so I'm more deterred by those, the actual physical things that we can actually move around, because it seems those would be a much more effective thing to me.
And you should mount a camera on it, whether it works or not.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, we might be able to fund the road project in other ways. by
Yeah,
catching
right.
speeders ourselves, right?
All right, do you need an adjournment?
I do.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
Moved and supported. Those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Those
You sound like a
opposed?
pirate.
Well, we,